Hey guys, welcome to the homestead. So today we're going to talk about tomato plants, why I grow 50 tomato plants at least every year. I always try to shoot for around that number, and there's a number of reasons why I shoot for a certain number. And so when it comes to the question of how many tomato plants or how many plants for a certain vegetable you should grow, let's take a look at the reasons why. Right off the bat, I'll tell you that I always shoot for double the amount of plants that I'm going to need. So if I know that I need 25 tomato plants, 25 good successful tomato plants to be able to produce the amount of salsa and the amount of tomato products that I want to use and can and save over the winter, then I'm going to grow double that. And the reason why is you're always going to lose some to pest pressures. You're going to lose some to disease and all kind of maybe fungus issues. So there's always things that are going to limit the amount of produce that you pull in. And so you always plant more than what you're going to need. And so let's just say, for instance, I lose half of my planting this year. Well, then I've got a good other half that's going to be able to carry me through the rest of the winter. Now that's the worst case scenario, but you're always planning for the worst case scenario. So let's just say I plant 5 tomato plants and I lose 2. You know, that's a lot. That's a lot of tomatoes that you just lost. Or let's say you plant 6 and you lose 3. That's half. You lost half of your tomato plants. But let's just say you plant 20 because you only need 10. Well, now if you lose 10, if you lose half, which is probably your worst case scenario, then you still have 10 plants that you can use to get you through whatever you want to use those tomato products for. Now, if you have extra, let's just say you plant 20 plants and you lose 2, which is great. Then you have extra to share with friends and family, things like that. But I always try to tell people, grow more than double than what you're going to need because pest pressures are going to take their toll. Disease is going to take its toll. Just mishaps in general are going to take their toll. And so always plant more than what you're going to need. Now most of my plants this year look pretty healthy. But at the beginning of the spring, when I just planted these, by the way, I got these plants delivered to me by Living Traditions Homestead. Appreciate that. They came out, knew that I was in a bind. I didn't have a lot of time to be working on my garden and said, hey, listen, can we give you some plant starts? And I said, absolutely. So they gave me 50 tomato plants. Well, they're all on the ground. They're all doing great. But earlier, after I just got them in, about a week later, I noticed the onset of early blight. And that's a common thing for most tomato plants. You're going to find that. And so I began treating that right away to stay on top of it. And it looks like most of the plants have all overcome the early blight. But you still have to be watchful for certain funguses and diseases, pest pressures, things like that that are going to maybe attack your plants. And so with that in mind, you're always kind of coming out here and taking a look and seeing what's what, looking for any signs of problems and addressing those as early as you can. But again, there's sometimes things you just can't help. Like I remember last year, we lost a few tomato plants to tomato hornworms. And these hornworms were attacking so quickly that, you know, you go in and you check it that night. You go out here and check your plants. And then you go in the morning or in the early afternoon, you came out and there'd be a couple of your plants that were stripped because they were working so fast. And those plants obviously didn't produce a lot or any. Some of them just died. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. You're going to lose plants. And it's just about staying on top of what you've got growing here and making sure that everything stays healthy. So I'm going to do a couple things different this year than I've done in years past. Normally, how I grow my tomato plants is that I will allow 2 or 1 sucker to come up, the main vine, and then 1 sucker to survive and allow that vine to grow out, and then try to work to keep all of the other suckers picked off. And so basically I have 2 main vines for each plant. Well, this year, because you know there's a lot on my plate, and so I decided to go ahead and just make it 1 single vine. And that makes it a lot less work. When you only have 1 vine and you're quick about picking all the suckers off early on, and you don't have more than 1 vine. Some people say it's okay to have 2 vines on a plant, and some people only are really strict and only have 1 vine and pick off all the suckers. But I've kind of done 2 vines. But this year I'm going to do 1 vine and pick off all the suckers, do not allow any of the suckers to grow into another vine. And with that, it's a lot less work because now I only have 1 vine to maintain, and the 1 vine should produce even bigger fruit because there's only 1 vine for the plant to support. So we're going to try that this year. This year we're going to do one single vine. No suckers are going to be allowed to grow into additional vines. And then the second thing I'm going to do, in the past I have normally done a neem oil and Dr. Bronner's Salsud spray that I put in a gallon sprayer and spray down with, and that kind of helps repel some of the fungus and maybe pest pressures that may come and attack the plant. And so this year I'm going to do that along with some baking soda that I've thrown in here, and that helps to cut down on fungus as well. So in this, I've got about a tablespoon of baking soda and 2 tablespoons of neem oil and 2 tablespoons of Dr. Bronner's Salsuds. And then shooken up real well, I come out here and I spray my plants down, and hopefully that will help give it some added protection against pest pressures and disease. The neem oil has worked fantastic in the past. In fact, I've done videos on that before where I'll leave a card up at the top of the screen where you can see the amazing difference on cabbage when you're using neem oil and cabbages that have not used neem oil. Amazing difference in keeping the pest off of your cabbage plants. So if you have cabbage plants and you have pest pressures, go ahead and watch that video. So this is a sucker. Every time I do a video, people always ask, what is a sucker? Well, this is a sucker. People wanted to explain to them this little guy right here. So here you have a branch coming off your main vine. Here's your main vine, and then here's your branch coming off the main vine. And in between the main vine and the branch, you see this little guy here. This is a sucker, and this is what you want to pull off. So basically, you just take and pinch them off, boom, like that. Or you can use clippers. Some people use clippers. You want to keep these at bay because they will suck the life out of a plant, and if you let all of the suckers continue to grow, then what happens is all of the energy goes into where those suckers are going and growing, and less energy is put into your tomatoes. And you want all the plant's energy to go into, or at least a lot of the plant's energy to go into the tomatoes and producing fruit for you to eat. And if you don't pull the suckers off, you will have a hard time getting amazing tomato produce out of your plants. So there you go. There's why I grow 50 tomato plants at least every year, because I need at least 25 to be able to produce the amount that I'm going to need, my family's going to need for over the winter and for canning. So if you need 10, grow 20. If you need 20, grow 40. Always grow double. The worst case scenario is always that you're going to lose half. So if you end up losing half, if you have the worst case scenario, then you have enough still to do what you need. But if you have a less than worst case scenario, you only lose a couple plants, well then great. You can share some of these amazing vegetables that you grew in your garden with your friends and family and others. So, all right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for visiting the homestead. Please like, subscribe, and thank you to Living Traditions Homestead for giving me these tomato plants. They're growing fantastically, and I'm looking forward to a very good crop this year. All right, guys, see you next time in the homestead. Bye.